This was amazing. I mean, I think I put a goal of $5,000 up because originally I just wanted to build the shower. I think the donations came in over $9,000. So we were actually able to do the entire bathroom for them without them paying for anything. So this is the first video in the series, and so I basically just wanted to give you guys a sneak peek of everything that we did, the overall scope of the project, because I know you guys have been waiting very patiently. So we were finally able to get out to Denver. So thanks again for being with us. The rest of the videos, I mean, I got a ton of video footage. I got like 8 days of video footage, step by step of how we built this bathroom. But this video is briefly just gonna go over it because I want you guys to see the finished product. And I know you guys have been waiting. So we were finally able to get out there on the 8th of July, Wednesday, July 8th, and that's where I got to meet the family. Hi, Beau. Nice to meet you, buddy. What do you say?
Nice to meet you too.
Kobe.
This is
Hi,
Kobe.
Kobe. Nice to meet you. Hi.
Isaac.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for coming, man. God, I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, no
Thank
problem.
you.
Yeah, it's been a trip. And then Jason said that Beau was just sitting there, you know, waiting for us, kept looking out the window for us to arrive. And so when we finally got there, it was really cool meeting the family. They all came out, Jason, Eiley, Beau, and Kobe. They all came out, super excited to meet me. And again, for me, this has been the culmination of months of planning, setbacks and delays because of COVID. To finally be there was almost like I couldn't even believe it. And then Jason took me into the house and kind of showed me where everything was at. You know, I was really surprised, I have to say, when I went into the house. There was so much done, and it was done so well.
All right. Here was my standstill point right here. This has been literally 3 years. This has been like this. Not quite this finished, but
Nice.
yeah.
Looks good.
It was completely rotted out. There was a small.
Smells good. It smells
Yeah,
like,
it
smells like a pine forest.
It was dry underneath.
Yeah.
So of course,
what happened to the shower?
I don't know. It just started, you know, watching your videos. I think it was the curb.
Man. Well, if you need another job, man, you can come. Our bathroom's right for us.
You know, I'll take you up on that right now.
So okay, well we're gonna get some materials offloaded. So after we met, dropped the tools off, went back to the hotel. I didn't sleep very well that night. I never sleep well without my wife, especially in a hotel room. My wife and I have been married for over 20 years, 21 years to be exact, and we sleep next to each other. I love my wife dearly. I do not like being away from her, especially at night. I can be away from her during the day, but nighttime, I want to be next to my wife. Long story short, I didn't sleep. I probably slept about 3 hours. So due to the travel, excitement, everything going on, planning, if you're in the trades, you know what it's like to be planning at 2 o'clock in the morning, something pops into your head. So we started out day one. First thing we were gonna tackle is doing the rough-in plumbing. I had brought all of my PEX gear. I had told Jason, you know, PEX is what we do around here. So I brought all my PEX gear, but I brought all my copper fittings as well. So when I saw that he had copper already stubbed out, I asked him, I said, do you mind if we do PEX? And he said, well, you know, most of the plumbers I talked to around here said PEX is more for, I think he said for trailers and mobile homes or something like that, RVs type of thing. And I go, okay. So I was thinking, well, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, right? If they're using copper around here, I can do copper. Let's do copper. So we got this all ready to go. Everything's cleaned, deburred, fluxed, and so all that's left is to put some fire and some solder to it. So here we go. My heart always starts going a little bit when we start doing this. I don't know why, I just kind of get a little bit nervous and anxious. I think it's because I don't want to screw it up. Because if you get through soldering all of this and you fire the water up and you got a leak, it's problems. So that's why I get a little bit nervous. So we're going to fire this up and start going. Okay, I usually work from the bottom up. I'll start at my bottom fittings. I'm going to try to put about a ½ inch worth of this solder into each joint. But anyways, I did the copper, soldered all the joints, everything came out beautifully. So what I like to do when we fire it up, when we go to turn the water back on to test it, I always have someone call me on the cell phone who's turning the water on, and then I'll listen to the valves. Okay, Jason, go ahead again.
We're on.
Oh, we're on.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the things, if you do have a leak, you'll hear the air come through at first. You'll usually hear a hissing sound, which is the air trying to come out. Okay, so I'm going to open the service stops. So we're good, Jason, because I can close it at the service stops here.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll be right up.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to open up service stops. You hear the water just fill up. So we got full pressure going to both fixtures. Yeah, baby, that's such a good feeling. I'm telling you, when I'm soldering, I don't know if you could tell when I was soldering, but I'm literally shaking. There's something that happens when I solder. I don't know, it probably also has to do with the flame, and I don't want to burn anything down, but mainly I don't want a bad solder joint. No leaks. No leaks. First try. First try, no leaks, 35 solder joints. Super pumped, right? And so we got the copper in, then we got the wallboard up. So what we're using here is Durock fiberglass matte gypsum. It's a 1/2-inch gypsum wallboard. I get the question a lot, is this board waterproof? Well, it has a waterproof face on it, but the core of the board isn't waterproof. It's gypsum reinforced with fiberglass, and the edges aren't waterproof. So it's not like you could dip it into a wet area and because it'll wick up water, but we use it because we're doing topical waterproofing over it. So it works great for what we're doing. So it has a waterproof face, but I want to clarify that the board itself isn't waterproof. Flush, nice flush surface, because yeah, if you sink it all the way in, it blows through it. So yeah, that's how you use the clutch on the drill. So we also use backer board screws. These are backer board screws. These are not regular drywall screws. Per the manufacturer, they want you to use backer board screws with that wide head. Also, they're corrosion resistant. You see they got this green coating on them. So that's what we use. So we're gonna go ahead and get the rest of this board up, and that'll be one more step completed. Okay. While we're doing the wallboard, I sent Jason to Emser Tile to pick up all of our supplies, all of our Laticrete and all of our tile. It was about 2 o'clock, and I'm thinking, well, what else can we do? Let's fill the day out. So I go, well, let's go ahead and float the walls. I'm gonna do things a little bit differently. I'm gonna float the walls before I waterproof. You've seen some of my other videos where I waterproof and then float my walls, but I was like, well, we got time. Let's float the walls, let's get that out of the way, we'll waterproof it tomorrow. So I'm thinking this is an easy float. 3 straight walls, no niches, no bench, nothing. I mean, this shower should take me about 2 hours to float with help. So, ready? Yep. So this is the 3701 light. So how it is, I haven't used it on a full shower, so. So we mixed it per the recommendations, the water. It seems really stiff to me. So this is going to take a little more work, but there's probably a reason why they want it stiff. You really got to burn it in. Yeah, because my regular fat mud, it's so easy to get up on the wall. Right away I go, man, this mud is tight. I mean, I'm using all the force I can. I mean, I'm just burning that mud into the wire, trying to get it up on the wall. It's nothing like how I mix my fat mud at home. It's super stiff and I'm fighting it, so we're putting it back into buckets, we're remixing it, trying to get it, adding a little bit of water here and there. So here we are. I've been just using like every ounce of strength that I have to try to get this mud up on the wall. It's getting late, it's getting like 5, 6 in the evening. And finally we just started adding a little bit more water than called for, a little more and more, just so I could work it. But I got it up. I mean, this was, and I had 2 helpers. I had Jason and Zach helping me. So they were mixing, they were bringing in mud, they were cleaning tools for me while all I did was trying to get that mud up. So I think it was finally, so I think we finished up somewhere around 7 or 8 in the evening. What time is it there, Jason?
8:05.
8:05 p.m. Yeah, so I thought this wall float was gonna go like super easy. I was jazzed. I actually thought we were gonna float the walls and float the pan. And long story short, this mud was the hardest mud I have ever worked with. I mean, the float came out great. It was just a lot of hard work. Check it out. This, we're putting our new stability nice and flat. That's why we like to float. Same thing over here. Nice flat wall. Nice, beautiful flat wall. The other thing we did here is, you can see I knocked out the bottom of our float, because normally I float behind, but in this instance we floated, we're gonna waterproof over it. So I'm gonna use sheet membrane and come up to here so that I don't get a bunch of buildout on the walls. And then the rest of these walls, I'm just gonna do a roll-on waterproofing. We're gonna use a Hydroban cementitious. So this is a really cool method I've been wanting to try out. We did execute it, just took a little bit longer. So the first thing I wanted to do on day 2 was float the pan. So we used our deck mud, and that I did bring from California, all the way out from California. We floated the pan, that went beautifully, right? Because I was used to how the mud works. And again, too. So if this were a foam pan, you know, they're never going to be the exact same size. And so when you need to cut the edges off or whatever you need to do, you end up with weird slopes because everything's sloping. So if you shorten it, you're going to have this weird valley. When you float your pans, you're going to get a perfect level all the way around the perimeter. That way, when you set your wall tiles are going to be level all the way around. Floating a pan is something I think, you know, this is my personal opinion, I think that every tile guy should know how to do. And as a matter of fact, if you're a homeowner out there and you're hiring somebody to do your shower and they don't know how to float a pan, I would seriously question it. I'm not saying that there aren't good tile guys who don't float, but if they don't know how to, I would definitely question, maybe get some more referrals. I highly recommend, if you're a tile guy, learn how to float a pan. There's so many advantages to it over foam. Because a lot of guys end up with like flaking on the top. That's one of the biggest questions I get, or issues when I get an email from people who try this for the first time. They say, oh, well, you know, came back the next day and was flaking off. And that's from having too rich of a moisture, or too rich of a mix, and packing it down too hard. And it doesn't create a nice uniform bed. So there's another screed point. So that's what we'll work off of. So once I get those set in, like I said, you see I tamp down. That's about as hard as you can tamp deck mud down when it's fluffy. And I have about a ½ inch, I'd say about a ½ inch left. So I'm gonna tamp it down again. I'm not going super hard because this part I'm gonna need the screed. So now I should be able to do something like this. Now I'm just screeding little bits out at a time. So you can see this part is riding right on my level that I created. When I get too much mud, put it somewhere. That should be a really nice little uniform slope. Good slope on the pan, going everywhere. Learn how to float. I'm not saying you have to do it all the time, but you should really know how to do it. It's not that hard. I got a ton of videos on it. Check out the link up here. I'll put some videos on floating. Highly recommend you learn how to float your pans. So I floated the pan. We were going to let that dry for a little bit before I put the membrane on it. So we decided to put the cabinet together. This was a Waypoint cabinet with the shaker door style. I had this shipped out again back in March or April. We screwed it together. I think we ended up doing 36-inch sink bay and then two 15-inch drawer bases. All of this was 34.5 high. You know, we brought the vanity up to a full countertop height. We used two fillers on the sides, two 3-inch fillers. Couldn't quite fit anything bigger than that because the dimensions I think were 71, which left us with 36, 15, and 15, and then like 2 3/4 of fill on either side. So while we're letting the mud dry, we got the cabinet installed, went in great. Got it leveled up, shimmed up, in perfect position. So after that was done, we took a lunch. Came back, the pan had set up enough, it was starting to firm up, wasn't all the way cured, but we don't need it to be. We mixed up our Multimax Light really loose and started to do the Hydro Band sheet membrane. So I'm just gonna put my pre-cut sheet down. You might ask why I like a sheet membrane on a pan. One reason is I can put it on a fresh mortar bed. If I were to use Laticrete Hydro Band, just the regular liquid applied, I'd have to wait 3 days from when I floated this pan, and we usually just don't have that time. Okay, so I want to stop right here because this was probably the biggest breakthrough for me of this whole job. As you know, I have been using Kerdi membrane for probably the last 10 years. On all my waterproofing videos, you see Kerdi. You see Kerdi drains, you see the orange Kerdi, you see orange everything on my jobs. It's the most widely used. It's the one that I was first introduced to. The other brands I've kind of played with a little here and there, but there was nothing better about them, so I figured why switch? Kerdi's available everywhere. But since I had this membrane given to me by Laticrete, I was like, what the heck, let's try it. So we used Laticrete Hydro Band sheet membrane paired with their Multimax Light modified thin set. Okay, so this thin set is actually doesn't have sand in it for one, and for two, it's modified. So when I was using it with the membrane, the combination of the two, and you'll know what I'm talking about if you try it out compared to Kerdi with unmodified thin set. I mean, it was like a dream. As I was installing the membrane, there was no wrinkles, there was no air bubbles, there was no buildup that I deal with the Kerdi. It felt so much better than using Schluter Kerdi. It was like everything just laid down perfectly. It was so nice. There was no like I said, there was no wrinkles, and the membrane has enough memory in it to when you fold it to do a corner, it actually stays, but it's soft enough that it lays down really nice. And it's like this perfect mix of all the sheet membranes, because there's pros and cons to them all that I've used, but it was like this was the best one by far. And when you pair it with the Multimax Light, which doesn't have sand, there's no buildup in it. I mean, virtually no buildup in the overlaps of the sheet. So it's almost like I can't wait to do another shower this method, and I probably won't be using any topical. So that kind of ended, that was day 2, so that ended day 2. Don't know how I slept, can't remember, probably not very good. Came back the next day, and the first thing I did was, since we already had waterproofed the pan, I went ahead and waterproofed the walls, because remember, I didn't waterproof behind my float this time. I'm waterproofing over the top of it. So what I used is a product called Hydroban Cementitious. First off, we tried to use a roller with it. Don't use a roller. And I'm just gonna put this in a paint tray and see how it rolls. I've yet to use this with the roller on walls, so this will be interesting. I wonder if this would be easier to do with a trowel. This might be easier to trowel on.
It said a grout float on the bag.
It said a grout float?
Yeah.
So what was plan B? Hawk and a trowel, baby. If you know how to use a hawk and a trowel, you can do so much with it. You can do floating of mortar on walls. You could do drywall mud. You can do plaster. Luckily, I'm pretty decent with the hawk and a trowel. I'm not gonna say I'm great at it, enough to float walls, but I was able to use it with the Hydroban Cementitious and get it applied on the wall in 2 coats beautifully. Just to fill in any, see, now that I got my hawk, I can really work everything a little bit better. This is going to be a beautiful setting surface, really is. So after we got that done, we went ahead and started working on the quartz. And so the quartz, again, donated by MSI, that's MS International. We ended up using just a grinder. You know, I brought a couple tools out there. It's amazing what you can do with a 4-inch grinder. So I used my Makita 4-inch grinder, high speed, running at 10, 12,000 RPMs, whatever it is, with a Pearl P4 blade attached to it. And that's how I cut it to size. So first thing I did is I went and got my measurements and my center lines and everything, got my dimensions right. And so I used the Pearl and the Makita to cut it to size. So then I took out my variable speed Metabo, which you see me use a lot in my videos, cranked it down to about 2,500 RPMs, put a 1 3/8" diamond core bit on there, a dry cutting core bit, and that's what I used to make my sinkhole, to not only make the radius in the corners, but also to get 4 punch points so that when I cut the rest of it out, it'll drop out. So I went ahead and made my 4 holes. Again, this takes some skill. I wouldn't suggest doing it this way that I did it unless you've done it a lot, because one little slip of that core bit will ruin the whole slab. You can't polish the surface of it. So you gotta know what you're doing. You gotta be confident in doing it. And if you want to see how I do that, I got a better video that you can check out right here. Check out that link if you get a chance. So I got the holes cut, then used the Makita in the P4 to make the rest of the cutout. And then from there, once I got the cutout, I went back to my Metabo variable speed. Again, dialed it back to probably about 1,500 RPMs. Put on the Velcro backer pad that I use, and this is a flexible Velcro backer pad. They have rigid ones and then they have flexible ones. I use the flexible. What that allows it to do is kind of get into the corners a little more. You can round the top. It's just a little more forgiving. I really like the flexible ones. And then I went with a 50 grit. The 50 grit will get out most of the imperfections, the gouges, especially quartz because it's pretty soft. And then I went to 100. Again, stepped that up, took a little more of the rough stuff out. You know, you get most of the deep gouges out with the 200. The 400 really starts to bring out the color. Then the 800, and then I finished with 1500 grit. So we got all the fabrication done. We went in, I got the sinkhole marked out, and then... Okay, so we got the countertop all fabbed up. We got the sinkhole cut out and polished. Really nice undermount detail. And so the way I set my undermount sinks when I have plywood and a laminated edge, I screw plywood underneath to actually hold the lip of the sink. So we got the sink cut out, and then I attach these other scraps of plywood underneath so that when we go in, we're supported. And then after we get the countertop on, we can always wedge up the sink. You know, we can put wedges in between the plywood and the bottom of the sink and suck it up. Or we can put a clamp in a bar and suck the sink up to it. A couple ways to do it. So we're gonna drop this countertop in, hopefully it fits. We just brought it right in, and luckily enough, it dropped right in, went right into place. And then silicone, and then that holds the sink in there. So after we got the quartz set, it was Saturday. It was kind of made it a little bit shorter of a day. Our wives had flown out. Marissa came out. She really wanted to see it. Marissa did the design on this entire project. So everything you see in the bathroom here was Marissa's design. She did an excellent job. My wife, Marissa, she's an excellent designer. And Zach's wife, Kayla, came out with her. So it was really cool. They showed up. They really wanted to meet the family. So they were here in town. So we cut our day a little bit short. We ended up going into downtown Littleton. So nice to be out. We went to this little bar. What was it called? It was called like the Lookout or the View House or something. But yeah, the View House. But had one of the best meals I've had in the longest time. It was live music. So there's this great little band playing, great food. They were having drinks. I don't drink, but it was still awesome. I had such a great time. After that, we walked down to an ice cream shop. And the people of Littleton are amazing. That's one of the things about California, that anytime you visit another state that's a little bit far away from California, you realize how nice people are. So we just had a really good night. The next day was Sunday. So instead of going straight to the job site, because we'd been working really long days, the family took us up to Red Rocks, and we went with Beau, and it was so cool. Beau, with his little prosthetics, he actually made it from the parking lot. I don't know if you've been to the Red Rocks amphitheater, but he made it from the parking lot all the way up to the amphitheater. And if you haven't been to Red Rocks, it's amazing. It's like the perfect combination of human engineering and God's nature handiwork. I mean, it's like everything just came together in this venue, and I can't wait till they have concerts again, because I so badly want to go. I can imagine what it's like to listen to live music there. So we spent the day doing that. On Sunday, we went back to the job site because we're like, we're here, we might as well work. And so we got started on the tile work. So you'll notice here that I did a couple things when working on the wall. So to start out, we're starting with the flat plumb surface, right? Because we floated it. So I don't need to worry about building out tiles or trying to take less thin set off here or there. I know my wall is perfectly flat. I know it's perfectly plumb. So for one, we're gonna make all of our cuts the same on the left and right side. And then for two, you'll see that I use a stick. I nail up a stick to the bottom like a cleat to stack my tiles off of. So I take my first full tile, and that's where I start. And the reason why I do this, because you might ask, well, why don't you just do the floor first and then stack off it? And I get this question a lot. Where do I start on the shower? So the reason I do it this way is it means I'm starting with a perfectly level row, and I can just stack off of there. I might need a little tiny wedge here and there if it's not perfect, but most of the time I can stack right off the stick. And then I know I'm starting level, go straight up. The thing that happens if you, and I'll kind of point to it later on in the video, the thing that happens when you stack from the bottom, especially if you're using wedges, as the weight of the wall comes down, you know, your wedges are angled, right? So the bottom tile will want to do this. And if you've ever tried it, you know what I'm talking about. The bottom tile will want to kick out. And so you have all this weight coming down on your wall, and the wall keeps sagging because the bottom tile keeps coming out. That's why I do it this way. And the other thing is once I get all my walls set above the stick, all my full tiles are done, I can pull, once I pull the stick and set the floor, if the floor has any undulations in it because it's sloped, and that happens sometimes, you can scribe in real tight, really easily with that bottom row of tile. So that's why I do it that way. Again, I can stay consistent with this thin set. I don't need to worry about adding more or taking off. Meaning no voids behind it. So if I just move it side to side like this, it's collapsing those ridges behind the tile. You can see how those gaps closed up in between. If I were to just stick it on there and push it, those ridges wouldn't collapse all the way. We had we got the back wall done, so I was able to get the side walls up. On the two side walls, we had 32 cuts. It's an 8-foot ceiling. We had 1 cut on the inside, 1 cut on the outside. 32 cuts total. Those cuts, the inside ones, 16 of them were all the same size. The 16 outside on left and right were the same size. When you're plumb and flat, you can do that. You can just go out to your saw, rip all of your cuts the same length, because you're not accounting for something being out of whack. So it saves a ton of time. You set your gauge, you make all your cuts in one trip. Zach also did a mitered edge for us on this. We ended up using a Schluter Fineck profile, which is their mitered edge profile. So, for our edge detail, we have this Schluter Fineck profile. This is a new profile that they came out with about a year ago. And it's a profile to protect a mitered edge. So we're using a miter on this. I really like to embed the strip before I lay the tile. So I'm just going to set this in like this. What I'll do is I'll put a little thin set on the edge of my tile here. So here's a mitered edge that we did. You can see the miter. That way we don't have any need for trim. We'll be able to just make the miter. It'll be a real clean edge. Excited to see how this is going to turn out. So our profile is going to finish just like that. Such a nice profile. Let me see a sponge there. What's up, Kobe? Hi, Kobe.
Hi.
What's up, buddy? You gonna be a tile setter one day?
Mm-hmm.
You wanna do this for a job?
Yeah.
Atta guy. You just gotta watch my videos and you'll know how to do it. And so we're gonna cut a little rip piece that's mitered too, and that's gonna backfill in this little area right here. So here's another like profound moment that I had when I was doing this. I was thinking, okay, so I'm not getting paid for this. I have never worked a job like this where I realized that by not getting paid, I wasn't equating my time with money, which I've always done, right? If you're self-employed, if you're a tile setter, you are always comparing what you get done during the day to how much money you make. For this, money was off the table. I wasn't making any money. So I had this almost moment of calm and peace when I was doing it, that I don't need to equate any time to anything. I'm just here to work. And I want you to grab this. Okay, now, here, you can use my knee pads. I want you just to rest your knees right on these pads. Here, put your right knee right there. There you go. Okay, so you're gonna hold it like this and drag it towards you. Push it down and drag it towards you. Good job. Yep. Just like that. So let me help you out here real quick. Stay right there. Get a little more out here for you, okay? To do that again, I want you to push down kind of hard and drag it towards you, okay? Think you can do that? Okay. Right there, now try it. There you go. Yeah. Good job. Okay. Good job on that. Just gonna move this mud off to the side, okay? Let's take this little guy and see how it has this flat part right here. I want you to tuck it under there just like that one's under there. Yep. Perfect. Can you reach another one over there? Right in there. Yep. Okay, good job. Okay, so now we're actually gonna lay the tile. Okay, you grab that side. Let's do it like this. Okay, you hold that side. You got it? You're gonna hold it strong. Okay, don't drop it yet. Okay, now you can drop it. Okay, good. Now I want you to wiggle it back and forth, okay? That's called setting the tile. That's gonna get it stuck down in there really good. Okay, so we got to get that bubble in the middle, so that means this side has to go down. You see how the bubble's in the middle now? And see how it's in the middle that way? So we're good? Okay. Now I want you to put this on top of, so it looks like that. Like that. And what we're gonna do, it's kind of hard, but you need to turn it like this. You gotta turn it really hard. Can you do it? So yeah, there you go. Okay, now we're gonna turn the black part.
Which way?
That way, here you go. Turn it kind of hard, keep going. Yep, just like that. Keep going. One more turn. There you go. Good job. And why don't I get this one because I'm over here? What do you think? Is that okay? Mm-hmm. There you go. That's it. Good job. Okay. Now we need to wipe it off of there. All right, good job, Kobe. Good one. Yeah, you ready? Good job, dude. All right. Watch how I was kind of. So what you do is you hold the trowel. You hold it at an angle like this, and you push down and pull it towards you. Want to give that a try?
He's got it at the right angle. Huh?
Get him a job. Okay, let me show you something, Beau. That's really good. But you had it up here like this. I want you to have it more at an angle like that, okay? So let's try it again. Okay. Oh, look at that.
I think Beau could just finish this up. Let's go to lunch.
We're gonna leave now.
Okay, that's good. That's good, Beau. Good job. I don't need to touch that again. That was so awesome. You put just the right amount of mud down there, Beau. That's pretty dang good. That's impressive. It really is. Troweling isn't that easy.
Oh, we just cut that off.
Good job, Beau. You're fine, man.
What do you
Good
say,
job.
Beau?
Now you gotta go wash your hands off in the bucket.
Watch where you're walking. Whoop.
No, you're using
Imagine, I'm kind of spent, and all we need to do is grout. We got the glass to do and trim out plumbing. I'm thinking easy peasy day. You know, the guys will start grouting. So, but the morning didn't start out real good. So first off, I think I got in an argument with my wife about something stupid. We were talking, and you know, I had some expectations of what she was going to say. Same thing. You know, when we're tired and emotional, that's when these things happen. So we had an argument. I'm trying to figure out how we're going to get the rest of this thing done. I had another client who had an issue that called from home. It's funny. I actually was talking to my wife, and I think we were arguing on the phone. I see his voicemail, you know, I see his call coming through on my cell phone, and I go to hit decline, and I accidentally hit accept. So I pick it up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, now I got to talk to him. And so I was like, oh, I'll just call you back. But he had an issue anyways. I was kind of short with him. All this stuff was going on the last day. And so it finally came down to it. Marissa kind of gave me a pep talk. We're just like, okay, let's just get through this. Let's do this. We can do this. You know, I felt like for a second there, I thought like, I can't do this. I can't go anymore. I don't know if you've been to that point on a project where you're like, man, I don't know if I can go, if I can get this done. I don't know. You run into a roadblock. And that's kind of where I was at. And anyways, whatever happened, I took a breather. I was like, okay, let's do this. I got to do it. I don't have any other choice. Let's do it. So now for grout, we're using Laticrete Spectralock 1. And if you don't know what Spectralock 1 is, it's their new single component grout. It's pre-mixed, and it performs like epoxy. It meets like all of the specifications of epoxy for hardness and stain resistance and all of that stuff, but it's not technically an epoxy.
So what helped us out too on the walls that I didn't show was getting the tile just a little bit damp first seemed to really help. What that does is when the grout goes in there, it's a lot easier to slide it off of there. See how much easier it comes off? Whereas when we were using it on the walls when they were dry, it wasn't coming off clean like that. It was wanting to drag and stay on the tile. So yeah, I think just a little bit of dampness to help with the friction. Packing it in both ways. And yeah, it's about getting as much off of the tile as you can on your initial pass. This one ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay, so what we found is you want to get as much of the water out of the sponge as you can. And your initial wipe is, you don't want to push on it, you just want to, so you don't want to push on it, you just want to wipe it in circular motion. But I'm not pushing down, I'm not putting any pressure on that sponge. Just really lightly starting to get stuff off the tile. Yeah, not putting any downward pressure. I'm just doing horizontal here. But what we were doing on the walls is we would take, after we used our sponge, we would just take our microfiber and try not to go into the grout joint and just wipe the extra haze off. Like that. And that seemed to work. Can you rinse that one out, Jason? So yeah, so once over real lightly with the sponge, once over with the microfiber, again, not letting the rag get into the grout joint. That seems to be the right combination. And then any haze that's left over after this, it will buff off. If it's a real light haze, it'll buff off. If it's a heavy haze, you're scraping with the razor blade with everything you got. So we let the grout set up. It cured up nicely. I think we did a few other odds and ends. I think we got the sink trimmed out. I think we got the cabinet hardware on. What else did we do? We did a couple little odds and ends in between to let the grout really firm up. And then it was time to put in the glass. So the glass was another thing that I definitely was losing sleep over. Okay, so this is an 80-inch by 46-inch, half-inch thick glass panel that we were bringing in there. Mind you, the door going into the bathroom, the door opening was only 80 by 28. So we had to figure out a way to bring it in on its side, bring it in through the door on its side, and then lift it up as it came in, and there was barely enough room in that bathroom. I mean, I had to back all the way into the shower as close as I can, and we had to go all the way to the vanity as close as we can. But we did get it tilted up. You know, was worrying about the night before, I think I was up at like 2 in the morning, and I was thinking, how are we gonna get this glass in? Again, that's the thing. If you're like me and you get into these projects, it's like sometimes you can't stop thinking about them. It's like especially if you're working like 12 hours a day, there's no way to shut off the hamster wheel. It's just turning because your mind just gets used to, problem solve, problem solve, problem solve. And it's just like continually you're looking at things to fix and do. And so 2 in the morning I was up going, how are we gonna do this glass in? But we finally did. So when we did get the glass panel in, another huge relief. It was like high fives. Yes, we did it. I could see, the grout's done, the glass is up, we can see, it's the home stretch. We can see the finish line. And so we got the glass up. So the last thing to do was to get the plumbing in. So again, this was my goal. When I showed up a week ago on that Wednesday, and I knew that I had 7 days to complete this project, and we were flying out on the eighth day, my goal, come hell or high water, was going to be to give them a working bathroom. Like, I wanted them to have, a functional working bathroom. I didn't want just the tile work done. I didn't want little punch list odds and end items to have to be dealt with after we left. So I got the diverter done. The diverter was a piece of cake, diverter trim. Then I moved to the thermostatic, and so the thermostatic valve, I ran into trouble. And okay, keep in mind, so now here we are, 8 o'clock on our last full day. It's about 8 p.m. at night, and I cannot for the life of me get this shower valve trim set right. There's something that was binding up in there that wasn't allowing the sleeve and everything to fit on there correctly. So Jason had a great idea, probably one of the most brilliant ideas he's had the whole time. He said, let's get something to eat. So 8 o'clock at night, and Eiley made some tacos and just kind of sat there. As we were eating, we were all three of us, Zach, myself, and Jason, we were all online kind of looking for solutions on how to put this valve in. We're Googling Delta and all this stuff. And so anyways, we eat our food, and I go, Jason wanted to just call it a night because, he's feeling kind of bad because here it is like 8:30 now, maybe 9 o'clock.
And he's going, you know, let's just hit it tomorrow. And I'm just going, you know, I can't leave this undone. Let's go give it one more try. So I go back in there, and Jason notices, he goes, wait a second. He goes, you know, I purchased a Delta rough-in before you had purchased the Brizo rough-in. If you know Delta Brizo, they have like this retaining nut that holds the cartridge in, and it also holds the temporary plug in the rough-in. So it's the same part. You take out the temporary plug, and then you put the cartridge, and you put it back on. So he goes, well, let me go open up the other valve. And lo and behold, those two parts had been switched. And so he had the correct retainer nut, which had a lower profile, which allowed the sleeve to push on farther, which allowed the handle to fully engage. So we got it. I mean, at 9:30 at night, finally we get the thermostatic valve hooked up, ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
like a dream. Okay. Okay. So let's set the temperature again. Trim out the shower. Everything is functional. We got a functional working shower at 9:30 at night on the last full day there. So end up, you know, exhausted, but feeling very accomplished. Again, I told you how the day started out. It was terrible. We got it done. So went back to the hotel, slept a little bit, came back, and day 8, really everything was done. We had already set the toilet, everything was functional. All we had to do, we hung the mirror, and what else did we do? The mirror, and then I think we trimmed out the 2 GFI plugs, and that was about it. That's all we had to do. We had about 45 minutes, an hour's worth of work. Then we sat down kind of for like a farewell little video. And again, all of these video parts that I'm talking about and showing you clips of, these are going to be actual full videos. It's just that I have so much video that I couldn't incorporate it all without losing too much. So that's why you're just getting clips. And I'm going to go back and make individual videos out of each of these. And this kind of farewell video, I'll show this too, because it was really touching. It was like our moment just to kind of reflect.
Talking a few times, and I mean, I can honestly say, like you and Zach are a really bright light in a really dark world right now, and it's kind of hard to figure out how to fix some of this stuff outside of our houses. But I mean, I've figured something out this week that. I mean, you guys have both been an inspiration to us, and we want to go out and do something for somebody else that makes them feel like we feel right now.
Yeah.
And then if everyone was doing that, I think a lot of this crap would go away.
Yeah.
So it's changed my life.
Our lives are different now.
In the last like 7 years.
Realize that we actually pulled this off, that like all of us pulled this off. This whole thing came together from him asking me, to me asking you guys, to you guys giving donations, to Emser and Laticrete, and everything that it took to pull this off. It was such an emotional moment. And again, I was physically just kind of spent.
To make this happen, it's been incredible. Thank you, Zach. I really appreciate it. You did.
You both have been amazing.
Yeah.
And so it was just this beautiful moment that we all got to share with as a family. And it's funny, as a family, they are my family now. I mean, they are my family. So, anyways, that's the trip, man. All because of tile, all because of some tile videos where a homeowner who was trying to help his son got stuck, didn't know where to go from there, and just reached out. From that, created this beautiful story that gave hope not only to them, but to like the whole community, because we had people visiting throughout the trip who were also caught wind of the story and what was taking place, And as they came, I could tell that they were filled with hope. Like in this time that's so hard for all of us, in a world where there's just like so much anger and hate going on, that there was like this beam of light, of hope that was put together by all of us here. And you know, it was really special, really special. And I just want to thank you guys for all your donations. You know who you are. There's too many to name, but everybody who donated, everybody who's supported through just words and encouragement, everybody who donated supplies, the manufacturers, and of course Jason and Eiley and Beau, just for letting us come into your house and give this to you, because it does just as much for us as it does for you. So I'm gonna leave you guys with that. I love you guys. I'm so glad this project got done. And I love being your tile coach. We'll see you on the next video.